welcome to my latest podcast. This week I'm going to look at writing and the speed at which you write. This is entitled Write It Quickly and Write It Well. I speak to a lot of people about writing. After all, this is what I do every day of my life. I write books for myself, I ghostwrite books for others too, and I write content for people's websites, blogs. One of the biggest misconceptions with writing is it takes up an inordinate amount of time. Sure, if you're not used to it, then the first few lines, first few paragraphs, first few pages can feel like an eternity. But once you're over that, the words just flow and the writing becomes a lot easier. It doesn't have to take months or years to write a novel. You can do it in a few weeks if you dedicate the right amount of time and go through the right processes. There are several stages to writing a novel, and these can be summed up as number 1, the planning stage, number 2, the writing stage, number 3, the editing stage, and number 4, the promotion stage. For the purposes of this article, we'll look at the first 2 steps. I've already talked about the importance of editing in a previous podcast, and the promotion will come a little bit later down the line. Writing a great book can be all about the planning. The more planning you do, the less editing you will probably have to work through in the end. This doesn't mean that you should plan and not actually get on with it, but you should work out the basics that you were taught at school to begin with. So every story has a start, a middle, and an ending. I'm sure you'll remember that's something your teachers taught you time and time after again. After that, some detailed character descriptions, information about the location of the story, and something that looks a little bit like a storyboard so you'll know what each part of the book will be about. This will probably get you on the right track. Nothing massively detailed, but something that's going to get your head in the right space and get you pointing in the right direction. If you already know the structure that you're going to write to, then you can concentrate on the actual words. Writing then becomes a process of creativity rather than piecing together parts of a story. You'll know your characters inside out, which is another benefit of basing them on real people. And there's a podcast on that too. So you can put them in realistic situations and make sure they interact in the way you want. There's a movement called NaNoWriMo, which is National Novel Writing Month, and it encourages you to write a novel in only a month. That means you live the story completely for that period of time. And do you know what happens? The story flows, the characters feel real, and you don't get lost in what you're writing. It saves a lot of time to be able to pick up right from where you left off the day before. My first novel, David's Goliath, is the product of writing over a period of time. When editing, I could easily pick the parts that were written close together as they flowed better and took less of my time to deliver. Here's a short excerpt from the book. David began to laugh. The two of them had spent such a long time together that they knew how to get under each other's skin easily. They used it far too often. They forgot about, or chose not to utilise, what they forgot about, or chose not to utilise, was the fact that they knew how to make each other laugh. Although she laughed more easily and readily than anyone David had ever known, she used it in brief bursts and then withdrew it again. She would laugh uncontrollably at a scene from Only Fools and Horses or Father Ted that she'd seen hundreds of times before for a few short seconds, and then it was back to waiting for the next laugh. David knew how to make her laugh, but used it sparingly. At that moment, they just looked at each other and laughed like they were laughing with each other for the first time. They threw away the boundaries that had inevitably developed over the past 20 years of knowing each other. They stopped caring about what each other would think for a while. They cast aside the life that had steadily accumulated on their shoulders, a life of mortgage, of bills, of car repairs, spending plans, and the aspirations they had for their children, and they just laughed. And it was as refreshing as pushing each other's heads into a bowl of cold water. The tears started to run down their faces. Neither had a solid idea of what they were laughing at, but they just did. My writing feels more joined up when it happens over a short period of time. My next novel is only a few weeks old, including the planning stage, and I'm well over halfway there. I encourage you to write quickly. You could even pay an editor to proofread after, and your novel will be ready for the public quicker than you know it.